In conversation with Niccoyan Zheng, award-winning author Niccoyan Zheng is a Canadian wife and mom to an amazing little guy. She loves traveling, but she would find her asleep en route. A lifelong reader, she loves great mysteries and epic love stories. Dubbed the queen of second chance romances, Niccoyan is a firm believer in letting the characters guide the story as if they'd allow her not to. Her stories are rich in diversity and culture while evoking a wide range of intense emotion. And on today's episode of Auto Interview, it's my utmost pleasure and joy to offer the show today, Niccoyan Zheng. How are you doing, Niccoyan?
I'm doing well, thank you. And how are you doing?
I'm doing very fine too. It's lovely to have you on the show today. Quite
Thank you for
exciting. We're gonna be
having
having a
me.
conversation around your work. So, Nicolayan, I see that you have a large bodies of work out there, and I would like us to start today's conversation with a contemporary romance novel in the name of Consumed, a darkish romance. Now, could you tell us how this book came about? What inspired you to write Consume, a darkish romance?
Okay, so Consumed, which is this book right here,
Yeah,
is actually my debut novel.
beautiful
So my
cover.
debut novel came about. I was writing something else, and I was very excited about that book, and I stalled out. I didn't know how to continue, and then I found these amazing writing partners, and the words starting to zip along, and then all of a
Mm,
sudden, a character popped out of nowhere, and I'm telling my writing partners what's happening. This character is being really loud, and I'm trying to focus on this book I'm trying to finish forever. And they're like, you know what?
wow.
Just write out like what he's telling you, and then he'll probably leave you alone and you can continue doing, which I'm like, okay.
Mm,
So I wrote out that little snippet, and then I was like, you know what? I'll just write out the blurb, and then, like they said, he'll leave me alone. Then it was the prologue, chapter 3, 4, 5. I'm like, okay, I think I'm writing it. And the next thing, the book is completed. And I wrote it
wow.
actually all on my phone in notes,
Wow.
just like tick, 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 tick. Like,
Typing. Yeah.
yeah, it's great for flow, not that great for editing, but I
Yeah.
got the story all out. So it was my first story. It was super exciting that I wrote it from the beginning to the complete end, and it was an amazing feeling. And the thing about this book that I really enjoyed is like it challenged me as an author to listen
Mm.
to the character and to do what they wanted me to do, because a lot of things I'm like, no, I'm not writing that. You can't do that. That's not that's not the right thing to do. But I listened to the character, and I'm looking back now, I'm really glad that I did. I'm happy with those results.
Wow. Well, that's quite amazing, really. That's quite lovely to know. And I particularly love the fact that you started on your phone. To me too, I love writing on phone. I think even most of the books I've written thus far are through my phone. When I write on my phone, I send it to my laptop because that's where I do the edit and other things for proper visibility. And that's quite lovely to know, really, how a chapter leads to another, to another, to another, and eventual big interesting novel is published. Congratulations, I'd love to say.
Thank you.
Yeah. Then you also have another book in the name of Retrograde, Forget Me Not, which is a first book in the series of the Elite book series. For readers who haven't read it yet and without giving much information away, could we have a sneak of what you'd expect picking up the book?
Yes. So the Retrograde, which is the second book, this book right
Yeah.
here, which is the first book in the Elite series. It's the Elite series is a group of three friends. So you
Mm.
have Nico, who this book is about, followed by Aaron, which is the second book, and third will be Maxim. And these three friends, they go through a lot of different things. For example, Nico's book,
Mm.
um, he this is a second chance romance. It's also an amnesia book. So he
Oh.
experiences amnesia, and that, of course, changes the trajectory of your life. And he has to grapple with those memories being lost and losing his spouse through his memory loss. So
Mm.
that's what this book is about and how they are able to find their way back to each other. So that
Wow.
is show. It is an amnesia, second chance, romance, and there's a lot of emotions and people have strong feelings about Nico. He's probably my least liked hero.
Wow.
I've gotten a lot of strong, but you know what? People keep talking about him. So
Wow.
I take it as a good thing.
Yeah. That's quite lovely to know, really. I love the fact, and I love the sound of this Elite book series. I love the sound of it. And please, let's go on to the second series, that's
Yes.
Emulsify, meant to be. Would you love to tell us a little bit about the making of that as well?
Yes, I would love to. So emulsify, I have it all. Emulsified, who's a little bit, he's a little, I had a lot more to say.
Voluminous. Yeah.
Yeah,
A bit
yes.
big.
So this book is a this is a friends to lovers book. They do
Mm,
not start off on the best of feet. So this, as I mentioned, this is Aaron's book, who is one of the elite friends.
yeah.
He is a British chef. He's Asian, and he's got himself in a bit of a pickle when this book starts. He needs some rebranding because someone has kind of smeared his name in the press. And along
Mm,
comes journalist Brooke Louisa.
yeah.
She is a Haitian heroine. Um, and they don't start off on the best foot, as I mentioned. They kind of butt heads, but
Oh.
once they get past that, they develop this phenomenal friendship. So I know a
Mm,
lot of times when people say friends to lovers, one or either of the main characters are waiting in wait to get that relationship going, and that's not the case in this book. This book, they are
oh.
truly friends who are there for each other. There is
Wow.
a bit of that like they're drawn to each other, but neither would ever act on it. They have other things going on in their lives. And
Mm,
then we get to the point where the time is finally right. Because it's almost like most of this book, not most of the book, but a lot of it, of time with them in the beginning is it's not the right time.
mm.
There may be the right
Wow.
people, but not the right time. And eventually we get to the point where it's finally the right time. So
Wow.
that is their love story. And it's an ode to friendship.
Oh. That's great, really. I particularly love the sound of your books, actually. We've talked about three so far, and I love the sound of them. I love how beautiful the illustration, the themes explored in there are quite amazing, really. Thank you for coming on even to talk about it. That sounds quite amazing to me.
I was just gonna say because I think sometimes as romance writers we're type of perceived of there's just theme and there's not much story, but myself and a
Hmm,
lot of our other authors that I read, there's a lot more going on. Yes, there's romance, but that's kind of like the basket that holds all of
that
these
holds
other
everything.
yeah. So that's something
Interesting.
that I wanted to just point out that you get a lot of story and heart from these books.
That's like a basket that contains, more like a basket contains different items. Like we have banana, we have a basket of gifts with different gifts in there. So the romance is like a basket that conveys the different themes in the story. Beautiful description. Love the sound
Yes.
of it. Yeah. Now, as authors, we all have different ways of reacting to feedbacks and criticism of our works. And I'm curious to know your opinion about criticism. How do you react to negative reviews of your books in case you've ever had one in time past?
So at first, when I started off, one of the pieces of advice that I was given from a mentor is don't check your reviews because reviews are not for you. It's none of your business. It's for other readers to
To
determine
see.
if they want to, read,
Yeah.
if they want to pursue your books. And of course, it's a great idea, and I follow it most of the time, that advice. But you're
Yeah.
human, and sometimes you're curious, and you want to know,
Mm,
okay, well, what are people saying? So, I've taken a peek once in a while, and some of it has been like a lot of it has been really super positive. Some of it has
mm.
been not so positive. Um,
Wow.
but my but what I do is I want to take the best from any situation. So if
Mm,
I see a negative review and it is something that I can work on, that's constructive, that I can take away and help me become a better author, then
Mm,
I grasp onto that. Um, as far as plot goes, those are not things that I pay attention to because if something else had happened in the book, it's not my story anymore. So
yeah.
that's not something that I can focus on because
Wow.
I'm not content in letting anyone take away my voice as an author.
Mm,
So I any review that I'm looking at things to help me improve and make me better in terms of structure and grammar and
mm,
things like that, or even like maybe speed, but not like
absolutely.
changing what the story is.
Beautiful. See, I love your take on this, and I love your answer to this question. Sounds quite educative to me. And that's very deep, very true. I love your opinion particularly. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Very, very important not to allow readers or the opinion to change the book, or if it's anything they want to improve on. I love the sound of that. Thank you. Thank
Thank you.
you. Yeah. Now let's talk about inspirations and ideas, which is one of the reasons why, I'm always fascinated and surprised by how authors, especially novelists like yourself, craft long sentences and bring words together in a way that we have, paragraph making chapters, making so many chapters, making a huge, interesting novel. And sometimes it's leave me thinking about how exactly did they get the idea to put these words together and write something that's impressive? You know, it always surprises me. And now, as far as writing is concerned, I'd love to ask you too, how do you get your inspirations and ideas for your books? Where did they come from? Would you like to talk about that?
So in terms of the characters, I've had a varying degree of ways that they've come to me. Like sometimes yeah, I don't know if you've heard of the term plot bunny. Like I'm just minding my business, walking around. I'm like, oh, and I see something, and that's a plot bunny, and that inspires me to think about what if
Mm,
this had happened, and then my brain starts
okay.
just going down that rabbit hole. But other times, I have characters that just kind of appear. They're like, hey, and I'm like, hello, who are you?
That's
I'm like,
funny.
it's a, I often joke around. I'm like, it's either I'm meant to be an author, or I might be going through a psychosis that I am camouflaging as, as being an artist. But because for me, it's very like I can sometimes hear a scene play out. Very often, that's my introduction to a character,
Mm,
or I see the scene play out. So like I just get like almost like a little video playing in my head of this is how it goes. And then it's my
mm,
job to capture all of those little important
everything.
things and put it into words. And sometimes that
Wow.
goes really well for me. And sometimes I struggle through capturing some of those because it's a bombardment, right? There's five senses, and I'm like, I want the reader to experience what I experienced when I got
Yeah,
that little glimpse into the character. So I have to
absolutely.
capture all of those things, and I'm a work in progress. I'm a new author, newish
Yeah,
at this point, and so I'm still working on capturing the beauty of all of those things that I see in my head and portraying it to the reader.
beautiful. I love your take on how your inspirations and ideas come to be. I love your take on this, and that's quite a fun way, really. Thank you for sharing. Love the sound of it. I know, Nickoyan, apart from the books we've mentioned so far, do you have any other works you've authored or say currently working on?
So currently, I actually have two pre-orders up. I have a pre-order up for two collaborations that I'm a part of. The
Oh,
first collaboration is Preacher's Kid, and that is actually a collaboration that myself and my writing partner Dari McCoy have put together. Um, my partner and I, along with six other authors, have created
wow.
this series that commences in May and it starts with my writing partner, Dari McCoy, on May 2nd, and it
Yeah.
ends with myself. And in that series, it explores one or both of the main characters would have been preachers' kids. Of
Oh,
course, that's something I know a little about. So I thought it was an interesting take on it. Like it's a complexity it's they're not one-dimensional characters. There's a lot going on in their life. There's religion because yes, their fathers are preachers, but then they have a
mm,
whole other life outside of that, and all
absolutely.
of them are getting into romances and how they go about doing that. So my
Yeah.
particular book is called Irreverent Devotion, As I mentioned, it's the last book, so it's June 20th. Mine comes out, and
Oh,
they're both in my book. Both of them are actually Preacher's kids. He's a
interesting.
former K-pop star, and he's obviously gotten away from the track, and she
Mm,
stayed on track in the church. And now they are coming. It's a second chance romance because they had a connection before and they went, as you can see, totally different directions. And now they are back on the same track and they have reunited and how they both cope with that. And
mm,
he's a bit irreverent and
wow,
she's very devout, hence the
wow,
title. And you see how they navigate that world together. So, really finishing up writing that, and it is a lot of fun to write. It's
yeah.
been a challenge because I wasn't expecting him to take on the title so strongly, but but that's what I love about the characters that appear to me. Like they really challenged me not only as an artist, but they challenged me on a personal level. They've
Mm,
caused me to be more open-minded and accepting. I thought I was pretty
absolutely.
open-minded, but these characters kind of push
Push you
those
to be.
boundaries for me. So yeah, so that's been
Oh,
really fun. So the other collaboration I'm a part of is Book Boyfriends. It's headed by author Monty J, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. There are 12 other. Yes, so I'm currently working on, as I mentioned, Irreverent Devotion, which is a Preacher Kids series. I also have The Librarian, which is from the Book Boyfriends. That's a little bit of a different take on relationships because she wants something that's a little bit different. Like she just wants
yeah,
somebody who's really educated and who can speak to her. And he's trying to get through to her that you can have it all, but you can have more than just this little portion of what you'd like. So
yeah,
that's the fun part for me to enjoy and write this book as well. So I
yeah.
have a couple of other things coming out throughout the year. As as we mentioned about the Elite series, I mentioned two of them. There's one more book in the Elite series, which I'm
Mm.
very much looking forward to having done by the end of the year.
That's beautiful. And it's quite amazing to see that you have so many works ongoing. Just for the fact that you've written so many, even. Yeah, that's quite amazing and quite commendable. Yeah,
Thank
very.
you.
Yeah. Now, could you tell us what publishing is like for a published author like yourself? Are there any challenges you've encountered in the process of writing your books and also ever since it got published?
Well, because I am an indie author,
Yeah,
I'm a jack of all trades. I wear all the hats. So I think the most challenging part, believe it or not, is not the actual writing of the book. That's the fun part for me. That's oh yeah, I get to sit down with my characters and connect and write them out.
yeah,
Then you have to go into editing, but luckily I have two phenomenal editors. So
interesting.
that part again is has its challenges, but it's not totally overwhelming because I have a really good team. It's
Mm,
really the marketing portion, you getting your book out there,
out
getting
there.
yeah, connecting with readers and like saying, "Hey, this book is worth you giving it a shot." Like getting that platform and right
Absolutely.
and getting out there has
Yeah.
been the most challenging part for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. And I understand that, one of the greatest things about writing a book, it's the writing part can be fun, but the marketing part is where the total work lies in. And that's actually it's the session for the success. The success of any book or even any business lies in its marketing. How
Yes.
much or how great that a product can reach out to the people who need it. Yeah. So I understand that, and that's quite relatable too.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Now, is there anything that you would love to share with the viewers about your books that we did not mention in this interview and you'd love the viewers to know? And just in case you have any bit of advice for struggling writers, I would love to hear your take on that too.
Thank you. So the other books, some of the other books that I did that weren't mentioned were I have four other books. So I have Pleasure, which is it's a
Small.
novelette,
Yeah.
but it was a lot of fun to write as well. and he is the cousin of the main character in Consumed, and this is a second chance. And you probably noticed I have quite a few second chance. I just like that idea of. Also, I have older characters, so in life you go through things, and getting that second chance is
Yeah,
very beneficial in romance, but also in other things. That's I think that's why it
absolutely.
ended up being my running theme. The other book I have is
Eric.
Gang. He's very different character. He made it a challenge to write. He is in a motorcycle gang, but he actually is a former minister, and so he doesn't swear. And I'm like, I think you're in the wrong place for that. So it was a bit of a challenge for me to write that. And then another collaboration that I was a part of. This one is part of the Club Desire collaboration, and this this main character is dealing with blindness and how that affects how he goes through life in that new way, like not being sighted and finding romance. And
Mm,
so the last one was this book, Venus Next Door, and it is a grumpy neighbor sunshine. It's a grumpy sunshine book. The one neighbor,
mm,
she just loves the holidays and she is just out there with it. And
that's great.
he wants no part of any of that. And so it's the opposites attract romance that I really enjoyed writing. It's a lot of fun.
Wow.
So yeah. And you also asked me about what advice would I give to authors.
Yeah,
This is a piece of advice that I received. You cannot edit anything that's not on the page. So, right. If it doesn't feel
yeah.
right, that's okay. Get it
Mm,
out there. You can fix it if you've put
yeah,
it out on paper, if you've
yeah,
typed it up, if you put it, if you document it, you can fix it. But if you keep it
absolutely.
up here waiting for it to be perfect,
It will
you
never
can't.
come. Yeah, that's a great advice, really. Thank you for mentioning, and I'm hoping that
Yeah.
viewers would love to utilize it. Now, Niccoyan, just in case we have some interested viewers who are watching this interview and would love to get a copy of any of your books, on what platform are they available on for purchase?
So the majority of my books are well, let's start with where you can get it everywhere. So everywhere you can get my books on Amazon. So
Okay.
that platform, all of my books are on. But I am wide for books. So Consumed, Retrograde, um, Mulfy, Venus Next Door, those books
Interesting.
are wide, so you can get it on any other retailer. You can get it also in public libraries because some libraries have it available. So if it's not in your library, the nice
Mm,
thing is when they are wide, you can request for your library to get them, and they're able to get it through the library system. So
that's
those are ways to get
great.
it. Yeah.
That's
Kindle
amazing.
Unlimited. Some of my books are in Kindle Unlimited. So
Mm,
if you have that program, you've already paid your monthly fee, and then you're able to access a number of my books.
yeah.
Also Kobo. So because I'm
Oh,
wide,
boy.
same thing for Kobo.
Yeah, that's great. That's amazing. And I left a link in the description part of this interview where interested viewers can get a copy of Niccoyan Zheng books directly on Amazon and also on other platforms. So thank you so much, Niccoyan, for accepting the invitation to be
My
featured on
pleasure.
P English Literature. It's awesome having this conversation with you.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for reaching out to me and finding me.
Thank you.